The night swirled with shadows, thick as the chains that weighed upon my heart. I lay in my cramped quarters, sweat pooling beneath my back, each breath a reminder of the oppressive heat that smothered every corner of our plantation. In the stillness of the night, sleep claimed me, and with it came visions that both terrified and stirred a deep longing within me. In my dream, I saw him, a man bound in chains, his body weary but his spirit catching fire. His eyes burned fiercely, a blazing contrast to the dull metal shackles that clung to his wrists. I felt a strange kinship with him, a tether that pulled at the very fabric of my soul. His gaze met mine, and in that fleeting moment I understood his plight. He was a reflection of every scream silenced in the darkness, every hope crushed by the weight of bondage. I woke with a start, jolted by the echo of his presence. The sun had not yet risen, but the day felt heavy with promise and dread. Prophetic dreams were not uncommon among us, tales whispered in the corners where hearts dared to hope. Just as the night had given me a vision, I feared the dawn would bring reality crashing down like a thunderous storm. As the roosters heralded the morning, a sense of urgency enveloped me. I rose from my straw-filled mattress, the crude fabric of my dress clinging to my skin, the weight of my chains invisible but no less real. I was Clara, a mere shadow on this plantation, a faceless worker toiling beneath the cruel rule of masters who treated us as less than human. The sun would soon rise over the fields, casting a golden hue on the endless rows of cotton, but it would not spare us from the harshness of our reality. The day began its grim march as I joined the throng of fellow enslaved souls, our bodies bent by labor, our spirits trampled by despair. Jennifer, a woman with skin the color of mahogany and a spirit that glimmered through her exhaustion, reached for my hand as we trudged toward the fields. "Did you hear the news?" she asked, her voice a hushed whisper, eyes darting around for overseers. "There's talk of a stranger arriving today, a new man, they say." A tremor of excitement and fear coursed through me. My heart raced, recalling the man in chains from my dream. "What do you mean, a new man?" I dared to ask, though I feared the answer. "Where is he coming from? Why?" "Master Collins received word he would be arriving by midday," she replied, glancing over her shoulder. "Some say he's trouble, others say he's brave enough to fight. My mother once whispered about a rebellion brewing in the hills, but it was just a story until now." Hope flickered within me. The possibilities were dizzying. Who was this stranger? What did he bring with him? As the sun crested the horizon, illuminating the fields, I found myself yearning for a taste of that bravery, wondering if the man I had seen in my dream had somehow become a part of this new arrival. Each hour dragged, the weight of the day growing heavier with every passing moment. My fingers bled from the prick of cotton, but my mind was far from the task. I caught glimpses of the white master overseeing our work. A smug look of satisfaction etched across his face as he cracked his whip, a sound that sent dread coursing through us. It was a reminder of our position, of our place beneath the heel of his boot. By midday, the air was thick with tension. It wrapped around me, an invisible chain binding my heart to the ground. As noon approached, whispers flitted through the ranks of the enslaved. The clattering of hooves echoed in the distance, a heartbeat on the horizon. My dreams surged back to life, vivid and insistent. I imagined the chains that would bind this newcomer. Would they be like the ones that shackled my soul? And then I saw him. A figure appeared in the distance, silhouetted against the blinding sun. A tall man on horseback with a commanding presence. He was draped in a dark coat, the contrast stark against the bright sky. An uneasy shiver skated down my spine, a mix of recognition and fear. The man from my dream, or merely a harbinger of more pain? As he dismounted, I caught my breath. The chains hadn't come off. They were just concealed behind a steely resolve. His hands bore no shackles, yet the weight of 1,000 struggles seemed to rest upon his shoulders. I could feel it, the shared burden that radiated from him, resonating in the depths of my own despair. "Hush now," Jennifer said, gripping my arm tightly. "Keep yourself low. We don't want to attract his attention." But I was drawn to him, something deeper than curiosity urging me forward. As he stepped closer to the plantation house, I caught a glimpse of his face, Sweat glistened on his brow, his eyes scanning our laboring figures, a flicker of defiance in his gaze. It was then I realized he had come not just as a stranger, but as a symbol, a living testament to something more. The urgency within me thrummed louder, as if my spirit recognized its kin. I felt the shackles on my heart begin to tremble, just as the chains of my fellow enslaved stirred with an awakening hope. Perhaps my dream was more than a warning. Perhaps it was a call to rise. I could no longer ignore the yearning that had blossomed within me, a deep-seated desire for justice and freedom. The man in chains had arrived, not as a distant dream, but as a flickering flame igniting a revolution within my soul. As the sun hung high in the sky, casting its unrelenting gaze upon us, I felt a spark ignite within me. This stranger, whatever he might bring, might be the catalyst I had been longing for. With every beat of my heart, I recognized that the dream was not merely a vision of despair. It was a harbinger of change. This was only the beginning. The chains of our bondage may have rattled, but I could feel the rising tide of rebellion, a tide that would not be silenced or bound by fear any longer. I had to confront my reality, to transform the chains that had once bound me into a weapon for freedom. And so, as I stood in the scorching heat of the plantation fields, something deep within me surged forward. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but today, a seed of hope had been planted. The man in chains had arrived, and I would not let his presence pass unnoticed. The weight of our oppression could no longer hold me back. Change was coming, and I would fight for my freedom. This is the story of Clara, a woman born into chains, awakened by the dream of a man who embodied courage and the relentless pursuit of justice. What would unfold in the days to follow remained shrouded in uncertainty. But one thing was clear: the days of silence and submission were numbered. The midday sun hung heavy in the sky, casting harsh shadows that danced across the sweltering plantation. I was lost in the rhythm of the labor, my fingers numb from the prick of cotton, when the sound of a commotion tore through the monotonous drone of the day. It started as a murmur, building into frantic whispers that swept through the rows like a wildfire igniting dry brush. "Clara!" Jennifer's voice cut through the noise, her eyes wide with panic. "It's Marcus, they've caught him." My stomach twisted at the mention of Marcus, a close friend, his laughter a balm in our grim existence. Just yesterday he had shared stories that filled our hearts with dreams of freedom, his voice a melody that momentarily drowned out the whip's crack. My pulse quickened as I dropped the cotton, dread coiling in my chest. "Caught? What do you mean?" I asked, though the answer was racing towards me like a freight train. "He was trying to escape. They caught him trying to run to the north." The words fell from her lips, each one sharper than the last. "They're bringing him back now. I heard they beat him." I felt the world tilt on its axis, my heart pounding in my ears. I turned towards the sound of approaching hoofbeats, the dread pooling into icy tendrils that snaked around my spine. The overseer rode at the front, a menacing figure against the bright sky, his cruel smile revealing a sadistic pleasure in our suffering. Behind him, Marcus was dragged forward, bound and broken, a stark reminder of the cost of defiance. My breath hitched in my throat as I saw him, bruised and bloodied. Yet even in that moment, there was a flicker of resilience in his eyes. He met my gaze, and in that fleeting connection, I felt his pain as if it were my own. "Hold on!" I wanted to scream, to reach out and pull him from the clutches of our tormentors. But I was frozen, shackled by fear and helplessness. As they drew closer, the overseer's whip cracked again, a sharp sound that echoed through the air like a gunshot, punctuating the silence that settled over us. "You think you can run from me, boy?" he spat, his face twisted in rage. "You'll learn your place." With every lash of the whip, I could feel Marcus's spirit being crushed beneath the weight of that cruel hand. Fury ignited within me, hotter than the sun blaring down on our backs. I wanted to rise up, to shout, to fight back against the injustices that had chained us for too long. This wasn't just Marcus. It was every one of us who had ever dared to dream of freedom. Memories surged through me, my family's stories of rebellion, whispers of those who had fought and failed, tales of courage buried beneath the weight of despair. But I had never been courageous. I had been a spectator, a passive observer in the theater of our suffering. That was the moment everything shifted. I watched as they dragged Marcus toward the big house, his face contorted in pain, but still defiant. That defiance ignited something else within me, a desire for vengeance that eclipsed the fear. I was tired of being merely a shadow, Ev hiding behind the veil of obedience while our bodies were used and abused. Jennifer's hand gripped my arm tightly, her voice trembling. "Clara, we need to help him. We can't just stand by." "Yes," I whispered, each word laced with newfound resolve. "But how?" "Maybe we can get word to the others. If we gather enough of us, we can make a stand. We could—" "No." My voice was firm, cutting through the haze of fear that surrounded us. "We need to hit them where it hurts. They won't expect us to strike back, not like this." I could see the confusion flicker in her eyes. "What do you mean?" I took a deep breath, the weight of my decision settling on my shoulders like a heavy cloak. "We'll plan. We'll find a way to make them pay for this, for Marcus, for all of us." My heart raced as I spoke, each word a step toward a path I had never dared to tread. The vision of the man in chains from my dream flooded my mind, his spirit burning bright amidst the darkness. I wanted to be that fire, to become the force that could not be extinguished. As the sun began to set, casting a crimson hue across the fields, I knew I could no longer be a passive observer. The chains that bound us were not just of iron. They were forged from fear, from silence, from the belief that we were powerless. But deep within me, a new resolve blossomed, a seed of rebellion that could not be suppressed. I turned to Jennifer, determination burning in my eyes. "We'll gather the others tonight. We'll share what we know, what we've seen. They can't keep us all in chains if we rise as one." With that, I felt a spark of hope igniting in the pit of my stomach. It was the first flicker of rebellion, a small flame in the midst of darkness. I would no longer wait for someone else to save us. I would be the catalyst, the force of change that would ripple through our plantation, a wave that would rise against the tide of oppression. As we trudged back to the quarters, the weight of despair still pressed down on us, but my heart beat with a new rhythm. With every step, the chains of my past began to rattle and shift, and I knew that the time for vengeance was drawing near. I would not let Marcus's suffering be in vain. We would fight back, we would reclaim our dignity, and in that fight, we would find our freedom. The man in chains had come to me in a dream, and now I was on the brink of turning those visions into reality. The world may have wanted to keep us shackled, but within the depths of my soul, I felt the stirring of revolution. The time had come to rise, to take a stand, and to carve our own path toward freedom. The vision of the man in chains haunted me, his silent scream intertwining with the cries of Marcus as he was dragged away. Anger surged through my veins, igniting a fire that I was determined to wield. The notion of mere survival had morphed into something fierce, something that demanded action. I turned to Jennifer, her eyes glistening with unshed tears, and in that moment, I understood that I was not alone in my fury. "Gather the others," I commanded, my voice steady despite the tempest raging within. "Tonight we will meet in the woods by the old oak. We need to share our plan." She nodded, fear and determination etched across her features. The gravity of our situation wrapped around us like a shroud, but I felt an unfamiliar sense of clarity emerge from the chaos. As I moved through the rows of cotton, I whispered words of encouragement to those who toiled beside me. "Marcus is strong," I said quietly, locking eyes with a woman named Alice. "He will endure, but we must prepare to fight for him." I saw the flicker of hope ignite in her gaze, a small spark that mirrored my own. One by one I spread the word, the idea of resistance taking root among my fellow captives. That evening, as the shadows stretched long across the fields, I slipped away from my quarters, heart pounding in time with the soft thud of my footsteps on the earth. The woods were cloaked in darkness, but the stars above shone brightly, illuminating a path I was determined to follow. When I reached the old oak, the others were already gathered, their faces illuminated by the faint glow of a makeshift lantern. "What do you have in mind, Clara?" asked Samuel, a tall man with scars etched deep across his skin, a map of suffering and resilience. I could see the weight of our fears reflected in his eyes, but there was also a glimmer of something else, a willingness to fight back. "We strike at the heart of their cruelty," I began, my voice firm as I laid out the details of our plan. We will not just stand by and watch our brother be punished. We will make them understand that we are not to be broken. I could feel the tension in the air as I spoke, a mix of trepidation and excitement, a dangerous concoction that coursed through our ranks. I outlined our strategy: gather supplies, keep watch for the overseer's movements, and create diversions. We'll use their own tools against them, I added, my heart racing as the energy in the group shifted. If we can create chaos, it will buy us time to rescue Marcus. We'll use the machinery in the barn, set fire to their crops. They'll be too distracted to notice our movements. The murmurs of agreement swelled, a chorus of resolve that filled the night air. What if they catch us? Alice's voice trembled, but there was a fire behind her fear. What if we fail? I leaned closer, my voice a whisper that cut through her doubts. We have already lost everything. What is left to fear? We either live in chains, or we fight for our freedom. I choose to fight. The words ignited something in her, a flicker of courage that spread like wildfire through the group. As we discussed our roles, I learned that others had been harboring their own dreams of rebellion. There was Thomas, a skilled blacksmith, who had fashioned tools from scrap metal and was willing to use them as weapons. And Maya, who had long been an expert at slipping away unnoticed, would help scout the overseer's movements. I realized we were not merely a group of enslaved individuals, we were a collective of resilience, forged in the fires of our suffering. By the time the sun began to creep over the horizon, illuminating our faces with a soft glow, we had a plan. A plan born from desperation, fueled by the need to avenge Marcus and reclaim our stolen dignity. As we dispersed into the early morning light, I felt a newfound strength coursing through me, a sense that we were no longer shadows, but flames ready to burn brightly against our oppressors. Days blurred into a haze of preparation. We met under the cover of night, each gathering reinforcing our resolve. We practiced our roles, practiced how to move swiftly through the dark, how to strike with precision and purpose. I felt myself evolving from a passive participant into a determined leader, my voice rallying those around me to embrace the fight that lay ahead. But it wasn't without its challenges. The overseer seemed to sense a shift among us, his gaze sharp, his whip cracking with more frequency as if to reinforce dominance over our spirits. I watched him with growing disdain, each lash against the backs of my fellow enslaved people fueling my fire. I could not afford to lose heart. The vision of Marcus's defiance lingered in my mind, propelling me forward. One evening, while huddled in the woods, I discovered that Sophia, a quiet, unassuming girl who often kept to herself, had been listening to our plans. Her eyes sparkled with understanding, and she shared with us stories of her own family's resistance. She revealed that her older brother had been involved in a rebellion in another plantation before he was captured, his fate unknown. "I want to honor him," she said softly, determination etching itself across her features. "If we do this, we do it for all of us who are lost." With each passing day, our network of resistance grew stronger, binding us together in a shared purpose. The weight of our collective pain had transformed into a fervent desire for justice that could no longer be contained. I watched as the others around me found their voices, their spirits rising as they added their strength to the cause. As we prepared for the night of action, I felt the tension cradled in the air, thick and electric. We were at the precipice of something monumental, and the anticipation thrummed in my veins. We would strike soon, and when we did, the plantation would remember our names. We would ignite the fires of rebellion, and in doing so we would honor Marcus, our beacon of resistance, and reclaim what had been stolen from us. I could see the old oak in my mind, a steadfast sentinel that witnessed our transformation. I thought of the chains, the sorrow, and the strength that had grown from despair. This was our moment, and I would not let it slip away. The time for our revenge had come. The night of the gathering arrived, thick with anticipation as the stars blinked down upon us. Unaware of the storm brewing beneath their celestial gaze, I settled my nerves, my heart thrumming with the pulse of the earth beneath my feet. The festive gathering at the big house was a facade, a thin veil of merriment stretched over the harsh reality of our lives. The sounds of laughter and music drifted through the air, mocking our plight while we prepared to strike back. Clad in dark, tattered clothes that blended into the shadows, we moved with purpose, gathering our stolen supplies and tools for the chaos we planned to unleash. A few of us had managed to pilfer small items, a handful of matches, a couple of sharp blades from the barn, nothing that would strike as a weapon but enough to sow confusion. The overseer's trust in the festivities worked in our favor. He had drunk himself into a stupor, lulled into complacency by the celebrations that masked our intent. As I glanced at my fellow conspirators, determination etched in their features, I felt a surge of pride. Each one of them had stepped over the precipice of fear, embracing the warrior within. Jennifer stood by my side, gripping a lantern that flickered with a faint light, her eyes glimmering with the fire of rebellion. I knew in that moment that we were not just fighting for Marcus, we were fighting for ourselves, for every moment stolen, for every cry silenced. We crept toward the barn, the air thick with the scent of hay and sweat, mingled with the sweet tang of impending action. The plan was straightforward: create chaos at the heart of their merriment, draw every overseer and master to the scene, and make our move to rescue Marcus. I could feel the adrenaline surging through my veins, a wild energy that blurred the lines between fear and exhilaration. "Now," I whispered, my voice barely audible above the distant sounds of music. With a nod, we split into two groups. One would head toward the house, the other to the barn. My heart raced as I took my position, the weight of our mission resting heavily on my shoulders. The sound of laughter filled the air, but within me, an unyielding resolve swelled. We struck the first match of rebellion, igniting the hay in the barn. Flames licked upward, bright and hungry, illuminating the darkness in a dance of light and shadow. Almost immediately, the raucous laughter from the house faltered, replaced by startled shouts. It was the moment we had been waiting for, their complacency shattered. "Go!" I shouted, pushing forward, my feet pounding against the ground as the fire crackled behind me. The chaos unfolded like wildflowers in spring, vibrant and uncontrollable. Screams erupted from the house. The overseers dashed toward the barn, their faces twisted in horror as they realized what was happening. "Clara!" I heard Jennifer's voice pierce through the tumult. I turned, and to my horror, I saw her face contorted in panic. "We need to move now!" In that instant, I felt the ground shift beneath us. Betrayal coursed through the air like a bitter wind. Samuel, our ally, was standing by the doorway, a sinister smile spreading across his face as he turned to the overseers. "Look, they're escaping!" he shouted, pointing directly at us. The realization struck with the force of a whip crack. He was not with us. He had turned against us. The overseers, roused from their stupor, surged forward, their shouts mingling with the crackle of flames. Panic surged through the group, but I fought to maintain control. "Stay together!" I yelled, gathering my resolve. "We will not be broken!" In the chaos, I spotted Maya slipping through the shadows, her nimble form darting toward the edge of the wood, a lifeline in a tempest of confusion. "Follow her," I urged, and we broke into a sprint, hearts pounding as we fled from the fiery chaos we had unleashed. The sound of heavy boots thundered behind us, but the adrenaline propelled us forward. I could see the trees ahead, their silhouettes dark and inviting. We dashed into the embrace of the woods, the sounds of the plantation fading behind us, drowned out by the rush of blood in my ears. But even in our flight, I could not shake the feeling of betrayal, the weight of Samuel's treachery heavy on my heart. He had chosen to align himself with our oppressors, and I wondered how many others among us harbored similar sentiments. The very fabric of our unity felt frayed, and doubt crept into my mind. We stumbled into a clearing deep within the woods, breathless and raw with the heat of our flight. "What now?" Jennifer gasped, her eyes wide with uncertainty. "We regroup," I said, my thoughts racing. "We cannot let their betrayal deter us." But as I looked around, I saw the despair clouding my companions' faces, shadows of fear creeping back in. I needed to bolster their spirits, to remind them of the fire we had ignited. "Listen to me," I raised my voice, commanding their attention. "We have come too far to turn back now. They may have thwarted this plan, but our fight is far from over. If we can strike one blow, we can strike another. We will find Marcus, and we will not stop until we are free." A murmur of agreement rippled through the group, embers of hope igniting once more. But I could not ignore the gnawing anxiety at the back of my mind. Samuel's betrayal had exposed vulnerabilities I had not anticipated, and the path forward would be fraught with danger. As we caught our breath, the distant sounds of the plantation echoed through the trees, a chilling reminder of our reality. We were still enslaved, still hunted. The fight for Marcus and our freedom was far from over, and I knew we would have to adapt, to be smarter, if we were to reclaim what was rightfully ours. But in that moment, as I surveyed the faces of my fellow warriors, I felt the fierce resolve return. We would rise from the ashes of our first attempt, and we would learn from our mistakes. Together, we were more than just a collection of souls yearning for freedom. We were a force to be reckoned with, and we would not rest until our chains were broken. As the sun dipped low in the sky, casting the world into twilight, I knew the battle had just begun. The flames of rebellion flickered in our hearts, and the next act would demand everything we had. The price of freedom was steep, but it was one I was willing to pay. And so we began to plan anew, determined to rise again from the depths of despair, ready to confront whatever lay ahead. The chaos we had ignited spread through the plantation like wildfire, consuming everything in its path. The vibrant flames danced against the night sky, illuminating the faces of those who had once been mere shadows. We had struck a blow against our oppressors, but with every step we took away from the inferno, a new fear gripped my heart. The screams of the overseers echoed behind us, a chilling reminder that our rebellion had not gone unnoticed. As we stumbled into the safety of the woods, the weight of our actions bore down on me like the oppressive heat of a summer day. Each breath felt labored, each heartbeat resonating with the realization of what we had done. We had set fire to their world, igniting not just the barn, but the fury of our masters. I glanced at my fellow escapees, Jennifer, Maya, and the others, faces flushed with adrenaline, yet grim with the understanding of impending consequences. "Keep moving," I urged as we weaved through the trees, their dark silhouettes looming like watchful sentinels. "We have to find a place to hide." But even as I spoke, dread pooled in my stomach. We were fugitives now, marked by the flames of our own rebellion. We had shattered the illusion of their control, but at what cost? The deeper we ventured into the forest, the more I felt the weight of uncertainty settle upon us. The night was alive with the sounds of the natural world, rustling leaves, distant calls of owls, but the silence of our thoughts was deafening. What awaited us in the morning light? Would we be hunted down like animals? The thought twisted in my gut. Finally, we stumbled upon a small clearing, moonlight filtering through the branches above, casting a silver glow on our weary forms. We huddled together, breaths coming in ragged gasps as the reality of our situation began to sink in. "What now?" Jennifer asked, her voice trembling slightly as she clutched the lantern that had led us into the chaos. "What happens when they come for us?" "They will come," Maya said, her tone resolute. "They won't let this go unpunished. We need to prepare." Her eyes shone with determination, but I could see the flicker of fear behind them. As we caught our breath, my mind raced with the implications of our actions. We had drawn the ire of the masters, but we had also unveiled the latent strength that simmered within us. As dawn broke, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, we dared to venture back towards the plantation, hearts pounding with trepidation. We needed to know the extent of the retaliation. The air was heavy with the scent of smoke, a bitter reminder of the night's events. I felt a pang of guilt for the destruction we had caused, but it was overshadowed by the knowledge that this was our chance to reclaim our humanity. As we crept back, the familiar sounds of the plantation were distorted by a sense of foreboding. We could see figures moving in the distance, the masters and overseers gathering in a huddle, their postures tense and shoulders squared. They were plotting, and I could sense the collective dread that permeated the air. What punishment would they exact upon our community for our act of defiance? "Stay low," I whispered, urging the others to crouch down. We made our way closer, hiding behind the thick trunks of trees, hearts racing in unison. I strained to hear the conversations that were laced with anger and fear. "They think they can challenge us," one overseer spat, his voice a low growl. "We'll show them what happens to those who dare to defy their masters." My breath hitched as the realization dawned on me. They were not merely speaking of punishing the rebels who had fled. They were planning a brutal retaliation against our entire community. My pulse quickened as I imagined the consequences of our rebellion, a collective punishment that would ripple through every family, every soul still shackled to that land. "Clara," Jennifer whispered, her voice shaky, "we can't let this happen. We have to warn them." But I knew the risk that lay ahead. If we revealed ourselves now, we would be caught, and our community would be left to face the wrath alone. We had to be strategic, to gather our allies and prepare for a defense. "Listen to me," I said, my voice a fierce whisper. "We need to return to the others. We can't let them pay for our actions. We must unite and prepare for what's coming." The fire in my belly ignited a sense of purpose as fear transformed into resolve. As we retreated into the shadows, the weight of our decisions hung heavy in the air. We had ignited a spark of rebellion, but with it came the realization that vengeance has a price. The thought of the Master's retaliation haunted me, a specter that lingered, whispering doubts into my mind. Would our actions lead to liberation, or would they seal our fate in chains far worse than before? The sun rose higher, casting its golden light on the plantation grounds, illuminating the devastation we had wrought. I rallied the others, our eyes alight with the resolve to protect our community. We would not let fear dictate our fate. We would rise together, united in our search for freedom, and armed with the knowledge that our strength lay not just in vengeance, but in the bonds we forged in our struggles. As we made our way back to the gathering place, I felt a shift within me. The rebellion had awakened a deep-rooted fire, a sense of legacy that transcended the immediate consequences of our actions. We were not merely fighting for ourselves, but for those who would come after us. Our story would not end in despair. It would forge a path toward hope. And as I stepped into the clearing, I knew that our fight was only just beginning. The world before us was fraught with danger, but it was also filled with possibility. Together we would write our own narrative, a tale of courage, resilience, and an unyielding quest for freedom. The flames of rebellion had ignited something profound in each of us, and we would not be extinguished. In the aftermath of that fateful night, Clara and her companions rallied the enslaved community, preparing for the brutal retaliation that awaited them. The overseers unleashed their fury with brutality, but the bonds forged in the fire of rebellion only strengthened their resolve. Though the path ahead was fraught with peril, Clara found solace in the unity of her people, knowing that their struggle for freedom would echo through the ages, an indelible mark upon history. The echoes of Clara's rebellion reverberate through time, a grim reminder of the brutal fight for freedom and justice. If these untold stories of defiance resonate with you, join our community. Subscribe to the channel to uncover more hidden truths from the shadows of slavery. Your support helps keep these powerful narratives alive. Leave a comment sharing what moved you. The moon hung high in the sky, casting a pallid glow over our ragged group as we crouched in the clearing, breaths mingling with the damp, cool air. The night had been a whirlwind, a cacophony of fire and rebellion, and now we were left with uncertainty, each moment filled with the weight of our audacious act. Just as despair threatened to settle in, a figure emerged from the shadows, tall and gaunt, his chains rattling softly with each step. My heart raced as I recognized him, the man I had dreamed about, the one whose presence had haunted me since that fateful night. He was the embodiment of my visions, the missing piece in a puzzle I had not yet fully understood. His eyes, sharp and piercing, met mine, and in that instant, I felt a flicker of hope ignite within me. "Clara," he said, his voice low and steady, cutting through the tension that enveloped us. "You've stirred something in the hearts of many, but the danger has only just begun." We shifted uneasily, glancing at one another, each of us aware of the gravity of his words. "Who are you?" I managed to ask, my voice barely a whisper. "I am Elijah," he replied, the chains that bound his wrists glinting under the moonlight. "Once a captive like you, now a messenger of a greater cause. I have seen what you did tonight. Your flames set a fire in more than just the barn. You have ignited a spirit of resistance that cannot be snuffed out. his words wrapped around me like a warm blanket, offering solace in our chaotic reality. I felt a surge of clarity wash over me. But what do we do now? The Masters will come for us, for everyone. Elijah nodded solemnly. I know the paths that lead to safety. There are those who will help you, who have been waiting for a sign, waiting for brave souls to rise. We have a network, a way to escape this nightmare. A flicker of excitement danced in my chest, but fear quickly followed. How do we trust you? How do we know this isn't a trap? I understand your hesitation, he said, his eyes softening. Trust has been stripped from us for too long, but I swear to you, I come not as a captor, but as an ally. You are not alone in this fight. There are many like us, yearning for freedom. Together, we can dismantle their chains, both physical and psychological. I exchanged looks with Jennifer and Maya, who stood nearby, their faces reflecting the conflict within us. Hope and caution warred in my heart, but the thought of our community suffering for our actions loomed larger. What do we need to do? I asked, determination sharpening my voice. First, we gather the others, Elijah instructed. We need to spread the word of what has happened. Your rebellion must be seen not as a failure, but as an awakening. They will retaliate, but if we are united, our strength will overwhelm their brutality. As he spoke, I could sense the weight of responsibility settling upon my shoulders. The vision of the man in chains had been a warning, and now he was offering me a path forward. I could see it clearly. We were not merely rebels, we were a movement, a force poised to strike back against the darkness that had enveloped us for so long. Let's move quickly, I urged, my voice gaining momentum. We must get to the others before the sun rises. We need to prepare them for what's to come. If they plan to punish us, we must show them that we will not bow down. Gathering our courage, we set forth, weaving through the trees once more, our hearts pounding in unison. The night was a cloak of shadows, but with Elijah leading us, I felt a sense of purpose swell within me. We climbed hills and crept through thickets, each step igniting the fire of rebellion that burned deep in my soul. As we approached the nearest cabin, the low hum of voices lingered in the air, murmurs of confusion and fear. I could see the flickering light of a lantern spilling through the cracks, illuminating the faces of those who sought comfort in each other's presence. With a deep breath, I stepped forward, my heart racing. Everyone, I called out, my voice echoing in the night. Listen to me. We have sparked a rebellion, and now we must unite as one. The Masters will come for us. They will retaliate against our families, but we will not allow them to extinguish our spirit. A hush fell over the gathering as all eyes turned to me. I could see the fear etched in their expressions, but something else was there too, an ember of hope. Elijah has come to help us. He knows the way to freedom. We can escape this place together. The tension in the air shifted, morphing into a murmur of excitement as they processed my words. I could feel the skepticism hanging in the air, but I pressed on. We need to act quickly. The longer we wait, the more likely they are to discover our plans. We must prepare and stand together against the punishment they intend to unleash. As we spoke, Elijah stepped forward, his presence commanding. You are not alone. Your bravery has awakened a network of abolitionists who have fought tirelessly against this oppression. If we move now, we can save not just ourselves, but all those who remain shackled. Together we can dismantle the very foundation of their power. A ripple of energy surged through the crowd as the weight of our shared plight began to settle upon us. I saw faces transform from uncertainty to resolve, eyes brightening with the knowledge that we were not merely pawns in someone else's game. We were players in our own story, and we could dictate the terms of our fate. I felt it then, the clarity of purpose. I was not just a woman dreaming of liberation. I was a catalyst for change, and we would not be silenced any longer. My heart swelled as I looked around at my comrades, each face a testament to the strength we would harness. This will not be easy, I warned, my voice steady. But if we stand together, if we fight back, we will rewrite our story. Let us prepare for what lies ahead, for the battle for our freedom begins now. As the first hints of dawn crept across the horizon, we formed a circle, hands clasped together, uniting our fates in that moment. We were a family forged from hardship, and now we would emerge from the shadows to reclaim our dignity and our lives. The time for suffering was over. The world would witness our defiance, and we would leave our mark upon history, not as victims, but as warriors unyielding in our quest for freedom. Together we would rise against the oppressors, and nothing could extinguish the fire we had ignited. In the days that followed, the rebellion I had sparked took on a life of its own. Word spread among the enslaved, carried on whispers and hurried conversations, fueling a spirit of resistance that could not be contained. As we planned our escape, every heart beat with the promise of liberation, and the man in chains had become a symbol of our shared fight. Little did we know, the confrontation with our oppressors was looming on the horizon, a storm that would either break us or propel us toward the freedom we had long sought. The moment of reckoning was approaching, and we would meet it with the strength we had forged together in the fires of rebellion. The lantern's flicker illuminated the faces of my fellow captives, revealing a tapestry of fear interwoven with hope. They had gathered around, drawn by the whispers of rebellion and the promise of something greater than themselves. I took a step forward, my heart pounding, and addressed the crowd, my voice steady despite the storm of emotions swirling within me. Listen closely. We have ignited a fire tonight, one that cannot be extinguished by the chains that bind us. Elijah has come with news of a network, a way to escape this nightmare. I gestured toward him, the man with the chains who stood by my side, a figure of defiance. We are not alone. There are those who have been waiting for us to rise. Together, we can dismantle the oppressive system that has sought to break our spirits. A murmur rippled through the crowd, uncertainty etched on their faces. I could see the doubt in their eyes, the scars of betrayal still fresh. How do we know we can trust him? Someone called out from the back, their voice trembling. How do we know this isn't a trap? I felt the weight of their questions, the echoes of our shared history of deceit and suffering. I understand your fears, I replied, my voice firm. But look at what we've done tonight. We burned their barn. We showed them that we will no longer be silent. Elijah is a survivor, just like us. He knows our pain and has come to lead us toward freedom. Elijah stepped forward, his chains clinking softly as he spoke. You all feel the weight of distrust, and rightly so. But I stand before you not as a captor, but as a messenger of hope. I too was once shackled and broken, but I found the courage to fight back. Together we can forge a path to liberation. You have already taken the first step by rising against your oppressors. Now, let us take the next. A silence fell over the clearing, heavy with contemplation. The flickering lantern cast shadows on their faces, and I could see the glimmers of resolve beginning to surface. What do we do now? Jennifer asked, her voice barely above a whisper. First, we must gather the rest of our people, Elijah replied, his gaze steady. We need to spread the word of what has happened here. Your rebellion must be seen not as a failure, but as an awakening. The masters will retaliate, but if we unite, our strength will overwhelm their brutality. I could feel the fire of determination igniting within me once more. We need to move quickly, I urged. We can't allow fear to paralyze us. If we want to fight back, we must act now. As we moved deeper into the woods, a sense of urgency propelled us forward. The trees whispered above us, their leaves rustling like the soft murmurs of our ancestors, urging us onward. We navigated the familiar paths, but this time we were not merely fleeing. We were gathering strength, calling forth those who had long been silenced. We reached the next cabin, a small structure hidden in the shadows. I could hear the low hum of voices within, the uncertain murmurings of those still grappling with the aftermath of our rebellion. I pushed the door open, and the flickering glow of the lantern spilled out into the night, illuminating the faces inside. What happened? Are you all right? A woman asked, her voice thick with concern. We are more than all right, I declared, stepping into the room, Elijah beside me. We have awakened a spirit of resistance. We need everyone to join us. We have a plan, a way to escape this life of bondage. There are people waiting for us, allies who will help us break free. The room erupted into a cacophony of questions and fears, but I held up my hands to quiet them. Listen, we cannot let our fears dictate our actions any longer. We have already shown them our strength. Now we must unite and forge our path toward freedom. If we stand together, we cannot be broken. Elijah's presence lent weight to my words, and slowly, one by one, the faces around me began to light up with determination. "What do we need to do?" Maya asked, her voice steady and resolute. "We need to prepare," Elijah replied. "We'll gather supplies, food, and anything we can carry. We will need strength for the journey ahead. We will move at dawn when the world is still asleep, and the darkness is our ally." As plans unfolded, I felt a surge of hope coursing through me. I was no longer just Clara, the enslaved woman haunted by dreams. I was Clara, a leader, a beacon of hope for my people. The fear that had once gripped my heart began to dissipate, replaced by the certainty that we were on the cusp of something monumental. Dawn broke, a soft light creeping through the trees, and with it came the resolve of our gathered group. We moved as one, a collective pulse of determination and defiance, our hearts synchronized in the shared goal of freedom. The path ahead was fraught with danger, but the chains that had once bound us were beginning to feel lighter, as if the very act of rising together was breaking their hold. As we emerged from the woods, the plantation loomed in the distance, a reminder of the life we were leaving behind. I glanced at Elijah, who walked at my side, his eyes filled with the promise of a new dawn. "This is it," I whispered, the gravity of the moment sinking in. "We will not be slaves any longer." With a final rallying cry, we surged forward, hearts beating in unison, ready to confront whatever awaited us. The air was thick with tension, but it was also filled with the sweet scent of possibility. We were more than individuals. We were a movement, a force to be reckoned with, and we would carve our path to freedom, no matter the cost. As we reached the edge of the plantation, I paused for a moment, taking in the vast expanse of the land that had held us captive for so long. "This is our moment," I declared, and the weight of our collective spirit surged through us. "Let us rise, let us fight, and let us reclaim our lives." Together, we stepped into the light of a new day, leaving behind the chains that had once defined us, ready to embrace the promise of freedom that awaited us beyond the horizon. This was the story of Clara. She led her people to freedom in 1831, living until 1875, never truly free from the scars of her past. She was buried in a small graveyard near the north, and her story was remembered for generations, a testament to the power of resistance and the enduring spirit of those who dared to dream of liberation. The echoes of Clara's rebellion reverberate through time, a grim reminder of the brutal fight for freedom and justice. If these untold stories of defiance and survival resonate with you, join our community. Subscribe to the channel to uncover more hidden truths from the shadows of slavery. Your support helps keep these powerful narratives alive. Leave a comment sharing what moved you,